Alright everyone, welcome to the Elder Scrolls 1 Arena. This is going to be a pretty much blind Let's Play, and I'll explain more as we get on, but there's a little bit of text to start, so I want to try and read it, and I have to read it pretty darn quick. So, the best techniques are passed on by the survivors, Gaiden Shinji Blademaster of the First Era 947. Here we go, let's try and get this all in. For centuries, different factions battled in petty wars and border conflicts. In the Second Era, 896, Tiber Septim crushed all those who opposed him and took control, proclaiming himself as emperor. Still, the bitter years of war had its effects on the populace. The name Tamriel, Elvish for dawn's beauty, seldom fell from anguished lips and was soon forgotten in a place where life and death were different sides of the same coin, tossed every day. The people of the known world began calling the land of their sorrow the Arena. Now, 389 years later, after Tiber Septim took control and kept the peace, the land of the Arena has a new threat. The Emperor Uriel Septim VII celebrates his 43rd birthday, but the jealous hearts desire the throne and plot his downfall. It is said that hope flies on death's wings. Prepare then for the Elder Scrolls foretold. It will be here that your adventure begins. So like I said, you have to read that pretty darn quick. It goes by very, very quickly, so I'm sorry to very much rush us into the game. So let me take a little bit of time to quickly explain what's going on. This is the Elder Scrolls 1 Arena. This came out, released March 25th, 1994. It is the first game in the Elder Scrolls series, which was made by Bethesda. So I said this is going to be a blind Let's Play, and that is pretty much true. The reason I say pretty much is because about 5 years ago I played this game. I got through the first dungeon, and then I got to the first town, and then I quit playing because this game is notoriously difficult. And then about 2 days ago, tried to record this for the first time, and for some reason the game audio did not capture, so now I'm having to re-record it. So let's hope that this one goes by better. I already know what character I'm going to play, because while this is a blind Let's Play, as far as story goes, this game is a kind of a game you need to play with the manual. You know, Elder Scrolls 1 and Elder Scrolls 2 have a manual that came with them, and really to understand the game, you need to kind of read the manual. So I've tried to stay as far away from story spoilers as I can, while trying to maintain understanding of race and class abilities, because this is a game where you can absolutely level your character into a corner where you cannot progress. Can be a very, very difficult game. So we're gonna play and have some fun. So we're gonna start new game. Uriel Septim VII, Emperor of Tamriel, stands with Talon, leader of the Imperial Guards. They have been summoned by Jagar Tharn, Imperial Battle Mage of the Empire, on rumors of treachery. The Emperor is betrayed and transported to a dimension of Tharn's choosing. After months of preparation, Jagar Tharn takes the throne. Ria Silmane, once Tharn's apprentice, is captured before she can warn the Elder Council of the Imperial Battle Mage's treachery. Manipulating the essence of magic, Tharn prepares to take the true Emperor's place as ruler of the known land. The Imperial Wizard wastes no time in gathering his servants and turning them into twisted counterparts of the Imperial Guard. Okay, so that should hopefully be the last time I have to very quickly try and read things, because the text moves way too quickly. So hopefully we can somewhat slow down the pace. I know that we jumped in immediately. It's like, oh my gosh, information overload. So you're going to see a new episode of Arena every day until the game is complete. And then after that is finished, we're going to move on to Daggerfall, then Morrowind, Oblivion, and then finally Skyrim. There might be Redguard and Battlespire mixed in. I'm not 100% certain if we're going to play those games or not. We'll figure it out as we go along, but let's go ahead and get into the Elder Scrolls Arena. So you can do two things. We can generate a character, or we can select our class. If we generate a character, it's going to ask us 10 questions, and then it's going to basically have a class chosen for us. You can do that if you want. I'm not going to do this. I already know what I'm going to play. So here's the thing. My first Elder Scrolls game ever was Skyrim when it released in 2011. And so, like most people who played that game, my character type of choice was like a stealth archer, kind of assassin thing kind of character, and that's typically how I play a lot of these games, is kind of these stealth-based characters. And I've never really went into the magic field of the Elder Scrolls series, so I want to try and really push myself out of my comfort zone, and by playing a magic character. Now, I'm saying this as I'm about to play the game that is notoriously difficult for people, so this should be fun. So there's 3 different types of classes. There are the warrior classes and the subset of those classes. There is the mage classes and the subset of those classes, and then there's the thief and the thief subset of those classes. So, you know, for example, assassin is a subset of the thief class, battle mage is a subset of the mage class, and so on and so forth. So really, when I looked at this, there were 2 choices for me that I could go. I could go the pure mage route, but in the guide that comes with the game, or the manual that comes with the game, it lists, you know, like what kind of weapons that character can use, what kind of shields they can use, what kind of armor they can use. And the mage is kind of, from what I read, was very limited. So I'm actually going to go with the second option, which is sorcerer. So the main difference between mage and sorcerer is sorcerer cannot actively generate sorcerer points by resting. They have to absorb spells, and with them absorbing spells, they get to use magic. However, from what I've been told, you're not going to really get that early in the game, so you're going to have to be able to kind of be somewhat of a melee character. So this is going to be a nice kind of, I feel, bridge between what I'm typically comfortable with, which is a fighting-based character with the ability to use magic. So we're going to go ahead and go with sorcerer. And what should my name be? Now, at the beginning of this episode, you saw, or you heard me read a little bit of a flavor text that came in the beginning manual of the game. So we're going to follow along with that, because that's kind of what the developers intended. So we're going to go ahead and name the character Talon, because that is who they say is the character. So we're going to choose our gender. We're going to go with male. And from where dost thou hail, Talon the sorcerer? So we have a bunch of different places we can choose. We have High Rock up here, which is the home of the Bretons, which I want to preface by saying I am not an expert on Elder Scrolls lore or history. This is one of the reasons why we're kind of playing through this game. Not this game, but the entire game series, is because I really kind of want to learn the lore. When I played Skyrim the first time, you know, over a decade ago at this point, while I thoroughly enjoyed the game, I never really did too much into the lore aspect of it. And the only other experience I have with the Elder Scrolls series is actually through Elder Scrolls Online, which is an MMO. However, the way I play MMOs is I treat that more as a experience for me to get caught up in my podcasts that I listen to. So I'll typically mute my MMOs and just kind of speed through the texts and the conversations, just to kind of get to the next quest, so I can continue to listen to my podcast. So while I have experience playing Skyrim, you know, a decade ago, and the Elder Scrolls Online, if you were to ask me legitimately my understanding of the lore of Elder Scrolls, it's not that deep. So this is one of the reasons why we're playing through it. So, but I do know a little. So High Rock is the home of the Bretons, and I believe they're like historically part man and elf. Skyrim, which was the home of the Nords. Morrowind, which is the 3rd game in the series, is home to the Dark Elves, or the Dunmer. Hammerfell, which is home to the Redguards. The Imperial Province, which I do not believe you can play an Imperial in this game, which later on is home to the Imperials. Black Marsh, which is home to the Argonians. Elsewhere, home to the Khajiit. Valenwood, which is home of the Wood Elves, or the Bosmer, and the Somerset Isle, which is home to the High Elves. Now, again, one of the things that comes with the manual is a little bit of a description of all of the races and the kind of benefits that you get from picking a specific race. So because of that, I've kind of read over, and I'm going to pick the Somerset Isle, and I'm going to be a High Elf. So thou hast chosen Somerset, land of the High Elves. Wilt thou accept this as thy home? Yes, we will. then thou wilt be known as the sorcerer Talon, who wouldst call Somerset land of the High Elves his home. Know ye this also, thy race is tall and stately, for thou art kings among princes. Thy people were first on this land to breathe the spring air and first to leap, nimble with wind. Thine eyes canst see all, even when naught is out, but the mistress of the night. Thy body and mind must be intelligent and agile if thou art to succeed as a sorcerer. Now this flavor, kind of quote-unquote flavor text right here is actually kind of a hint as what you need to do in the next screen. So let's just remember intelligent and agile. Go ye now in peace, let thy fate be written in the Elder Scrolls. Distribute thy points as needed, keeping in mind the recommendations for thy chosen class. So, this is what we were talking about in the next screen. So it said in the character creation, or the race choice, basically look at intelligence and agility. So, very briefly to explain this game is, as you can see just by this screen, this game is heavily inspired by classic TTRPGs. If you don't know what a TTRPG is, it's a tabletop role-playing game. Specifically, this is heavily inspired by Dungeons and Dragons. From the little bit of research I did about like the making of this game, trying to not to spoil myself as far as story goes, this game heavily inspired by Dungeons and Dragons. In fact, I believe it was rumored that they were going to try and make this basically a Dungeons and Dragons-esque type game. In fact, there's even photographs of beholders that were published in, I want to say, a French magazine, but they're not any longer in the base game. So originally this game was supposed to be kind of like a battle arena. That's why they called it, Arena. It was supposed to be a 4-player, you took control of 4 characters, and you were a team that went around all of Tamriel fighting people and getting stronger until you could finally be crowned the champion of the continent. However, they started making more and more like side quests in the procedurally created dungeons, and they really kind of fell in love with that. So somewhat early on in the game, not super early, because they had actually developed the idea of the original arena idea well into the game. In fact, some of the stuff is still in the game files as far as team names that are no longer present in the actual release, but it's hidden deep in the files. So they actually decided, no, we're just going to make this an RPG. So anyway, this, you can see, is definitely heavily inspired by Dungeons and Dragons, and the typical tabletop RPG genre. So I'm going to briefly explain what you're seeing here. Strength is basically how strong you are. It affects your carry weight, and it affects your damage. Intelligence affects your spell points. Willpower affects your magic defense. Agility affects your ability to hit, as well as your ability to defend against hits. Speed is just your character speed. Endurance affects your health and your heal modifier. Personality affects your charisma, which basically affects like bartering prices, and luck is kind of like it basically affects everything. Health is health, fatigue is fatigue, you get gold. So, as we can see, this is what we rolled, and we got 18 bonus points to distribute. Now, here's the thing. If you hit done, let's try that again. If you hit done and you re-roll your stats, you can actually re-roll your stats, and it's actually recommended and outright encouraged to kind of re-roll your stats until you get something that would be beneficial to your character. So what I'm looking for here is something that has a nice amount of intelligence and willpower, but also agility. And the reason why we want intelligence and willpower for a sorcerer is because those two affect spell absorption for our sorcerer points. So it is these two added together, I think, divided by 2. So the higher we can get these, the more we can absorb points, which means the more sorcerer points we can absorb, which would help us later in the game. But we need to also focus on agility to affect our to-hit modifiers, because we aren't going to probably be having that much magic to use early in the game. So This is actually decent. That's really decent, but our agility is kind of low. Granted, we did get 22 bonus points to kind of go and put into anywhere. One of the things I'm also looking for here is our modifiers. So right now we have a -1 to damage, but we have a +3 to magic defense. So this is an overall a decent one, but I'm going to roll a few more times, see if I can get even better. So I'll just cut out because it could be a bit of rolling, and I will come back once we have a really good roll. Okay, so we only had to roll actually a few times, and we got what I would consider a pretty good roll. Our intelligence and our willpower is pretty high, as well as our agility to start, and we get a bonus of 24. So the only negative modifier we have right now is to damage, so I'm actually going to just increase it by 1 to get our damage modifier to +0. And we're going to go on ahead, and I would like to get our agility up to a +2. And then I want to get our intelligence up to about let's say a 75. And then we can get our willpower up to 66. So this, to me, looks good. So we're going to start with a starting strength of 43, an intelligence of 75, a willpower of 66, agility of 60, speed of 52, endurance of 46, a personality of 53, and luck of 52, which results in us having no damage modifier, so we're not, getting a minus to damage or a positive to damage. We can carry 86 kilos. We get 225 points as of right now. We get a +3 to magic defense, a +2 to hit and defend, and charisma, health, and healing modifier all stay 0. We're going to start with only 26 health. The sorcerers are pretty squishy, so I'm going to have to be very careful in, the early game, and hopefully, survive, basically. We get to start with a fatigue of 89, and gold is also randomized. I believe you can start with a maximum of 200, so 132 is actually decent. So we're going to go ahead and say that is done, and we're going to save our stats. Thou wilt now choose thy appearance. Thy mien canst be altered by clicking thy face. When thou art finished, select Done to enter the world of Tamriel, home of the arena. So we're going to, let's see, what face do we want to pick? Let us go with that one. Sure, why not? We're not going to see the character's face a whole lot.
For it is I, Ria Silmane. Listen to me. There are no others left to carry on this fight. You have been left in this cell to die. Jagartharn, Imperial Battle, Mage of Tamriel, has taken on the guise of the true Emperor. He does not see you as a threat, being only a minor part of the Imperial Court. In that act of arrogance, he has made his first mistake. Look to the north wall of the cell. You will find a ruby key which will unlock the door. Take it and make your escape. The passages here were once used by Tharn to hide treasures he had stolen from the Emperor's coffin. If you wish, you can gather enough to support yourself away from the Imperial seat. Be careful. There are many creatures which inhabit the sewers now, vile rats and goblins. It is too late for me, for I am already dead. Only my powers as a sorceress keep me between this life and the next. That power, however, is waning. Do not succumb to greed, or you may find these tunnels to be your final resting place as well. I can still work my magic to a certain extent. If you travel west from this cell, then south, you will find a shift gate. It will transport you far enough from the center of the Empire that you should be safe. If you survive these sewers, you will see me again. Remember, Tharn has taken on the guise of the Emperor. No one will gainsay his word for yours. I will come to you again in your dreams, so it is imperative that you rest from time to time. In that way, I will be able to communicate with you and lend my aid. You are entering a dangerous arena, my friend, one in which the players are beings beyond your mortal comprehension. I do not envy your role. There is, however, a power within you as yet untapped. Look for me when you have gained experience in the world. You are my last and best hope.
Alright, that's going to be the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw, first off, hit the subscribe button. It will keep you alerted to all the new videos that come along. You're going to see a new episode of the Elder Scrolls Arena every single day until it's complete, and then we're going to move on to Daggerfall, Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, and so on and so forth. So if you like this video, one of the other things you can do is hit the thumbs up button. It's going to help out the video a lot. Also, down in the comments, let's talk about what your first experience is with the Elder Scrolls game. Was it Arena? Was it Daggerfall? Was it Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim? And, you know, just kind of what was your experience with the Elder Scrolls game? Let's try and keep it spoiler free, though, just for, you know, the people that have not played, including myself. So again, thank you so much, and I will see you next time for more of the Elder Scrolls Arena. Bye.